Alrighty, guys. So, Rogers Pass Memorial. This is a big one. Glacier National Park. That's the highway, TransCanada there. Alrighty, guys. So, sasquatchprospector Prospector here. Doing well today. Nice day. Nice and sunny. A little smoky, but not too bad. So, we're on the Coquihalla, the only highway, 120 kilometers an hour, which is just awesome. It's great. Who doesn't like going fast? So, we're just about to start heading up to the Coquihalla summit now, and we're going to be heading towards Kamloops. So, Kamloops, the Shuswap Lakes, that whole region, that was known for as a stopping off point to the Big Bend. So if you were at the Fraser Canyon Gold Rush or whatever in the Fraser River and you wanted to go to the Big Bend Gold Rush, you would go to Savona and you'd take a stern wheeler and that'd take you to Kamloops, and then you'd follow the Shuswap Lakes over to Seymour Arm, and then over the mountain pass into the Big Bend country where you could start your mining operation. So we're doing a tour of that general area. So we're on the road, TransCanada Highway. We're heading towards Eagle Pass, Revelstoke, the site of the last spike. We're coming through Chase right now. This is the town of Chase. Stopping off point in the Big Bend. So like I said, everybody from the Caribou Gold Rush wants to come over to the Big Bend Gold Rush. They follow the wagon road from the junction there, Cache Creek, Savona, take the stern wheeler over to Kamloops, follow this route over to the lakes, and then you hit Shuswap Lake, Adams Lake, series of lakes, and then that'll take you over to the Big Bend, the town of Seymour Arm. That was a big stopping off point for the Big Bend, because basically after Seymour Arm, you go right over the mountain, and then you're in the Big Bend. You're in the goldfield. Coming through the lakes. So this has been the lakes route. They would have taken boats. They would have traversed the lakes and followed these lakes like we're going to do with the road, all the way over to Seymour Arm. And then at Seymour Arm, they'd make the cross over the pass. And at Craiglachie, there's a bush road that takes you to Seymour Arm. It's like 4 hours long, and it's through the bush, and it's not you don't just casually like drive down it on a sunny day kind of a thing. They'd use those routes to get into the Big Bend. It's all linked together, right? Following the rail line at the same time. And this video is going to be on the railway construction of the CPR through the mountains. So there's 3 passes of note that we really kind of want to focus on. Is Eagle Pass, which is what we're about to enter and drive through. That has the last spike. There's Rogers Pass, Canot Tunnel, hold full show there, like avalanche control, Glacier National Park. And then Golden is the next rail town. We're just leaving Sycamoose on the TransCanada Highway. Eagle Pass, which we're in now. And you can see the train right beside us. Coming up onto the last spike now. So it's just a turn off on the side of the highway here. It's a cool stop too. It's a really cool stop. Okay, so guys, at the last spike here, we got a train going by. There she is. So this is where they drove the last spike for the Canadian Pacific Railway, 1885. Big deal, man. Real big deal here. So there's a gift shop, there's billboards, nice little hiking area. There's a lot of cool stuff here. Canadian Pacific. I see a train. Yeah, there's a train, guys. Lots of different things on this one. There's some cars up there, I think, to see. Eagle Pass. Driving through Eagle Pass. This is Eagle Pass. Walter Goberly's baby. When they built this railway, they wanted it complete before they would join the country, because BC was isolated and cut off from the rest of the country. So they basically were like, we want this railway built. We want to be connected to the rest of the country. So BC joining Canada was dependent on this railway being built. That's why when in Craiglachie here, where we just were, the last spike being driven. It's a big moment, because that basically was the point where from coast to coast, Canada was now unified by rail, right? So then they could ship goods, people eventually and stuff, right? So it was a big deal, guys. November 7th, 1885. Civil engineering, landmark, historic site. The scale and the amount of work that these guys had to do, just like the sheer logistics of like how much material you're removing, how much material you have to bring in, the amount of tunnels, the work camps. The work camps are all in national parks. The Canadian government, BC government, wants this railway built or remodeled, right, or modernized. And you have to have these construction camps built in Glacier National Park, all these beautiful, pristine national parks. You can't have any waste. You can't just throw your cut-off garbage wherever you want, right? So logistically, when they were trying to build this, and in the 1880s, they didn't do that. In the 1880s, they just did whatever they did. That was it. And we deal with the consequences now. But back in, like I said, I think the 70s, 80s, when they were actually like redoing the work, because they had to modernize everything, it was a big deal, man. Even back then, like, you know, everybody knows the 80s wasn't exactly environmentally conscious like Central and trades, but when they were building this railway through the national parks, it was very clear there's to be no garbage. The site remediation after, so if you have a laydown area for all your materials, you have to replant that. You have to make it look as if you were not here, right? So, and it seems like it's the job, because driving along, I've been trying to find these old camps, the old rail camps for the railway workers, and I have been able to find it. So that's good. But it's just a thing to consider, like, because this is all national park stuff, right? Like, especially when we get into Rogers Pass, Kicking Horse Pass there, like that's all national park, right? And so that there's a lot of rules and stuff with national parks. Kind of another cool thing to note about the railway and building it was, I talked about the little Lillooet cattle trail and all the meat, and how, you know, there's money in gold, right? There's money in timber, lumber, but there's also money in cattle ranching, horse ranching, like all that kind of stuff. So the CPR, they had bulk deals with some cattle ranchers. I think Tom Ellis would have been one of them, cattle ranchers from the Okanagan, a couple other guys. And they had, like, you know, however many head of cattle, and they would sell the meat to the CPR. So the CPR would be like, hey, we got to buy up, like, you know, 20,000 pounds of beef, right? So then they'd go to a rancher, and the rancher would be like, oh yeah, okay, I think you can do that, and then sell the cows, and they would use that to feed the CPR workers. In the 1880s, it was hay. They needed hay instead of fuel, like, you know, gas and oil and all the stuff they needed for the machinery when they were redoing it. In the 1880s, they needed hay for the horses, right? Because it was all horse. They were using horses to haul carts of rock and haul all the material up, and so it was all horse labor. And so they needed to feed the men, and they needed to feed the horses, right? And then the railway was for mining and all forestry and all kinds of stuff, right? So everybody's kind of helping everybody out, right? Just different ways. Three Valley Gap, guys. That's a cool hotel you can stay at. There's a little museum in there. This is gorgeous, though. Absolutely. Avalanche gates here, too. Absolutely gorgeous. That's a hotel you can stay at. It's a pretty cool hotel. It's kind of its own thing when you're staying there, though. There's a museum and all kinds of stuff there. Got a bunch of old cars, train equipment, and stuff like that. Here we are, guys. Revelstoke. The good old Revelstoke Bridge. The Big Eddy, or Big Eddy, they used to call it. Rogers Pass. So the Big Bend Highway, what we did in the Mike Creek Dam there, was initially built, check your fuel, 150 kilometers till for fuel. The Big Bend was initially built because initially they said they couldn't construct a road through Rogers Pass because the railway gave them enough trouble. So they built the Big Bend as an alternative and thought, oh wow, the Big Bend's going to be easier. But you know, anybody who's driven it can tell you like what a joke that is. So we're going to drive the TransCanada Highway. We're going to drive the road that did away with the Big Bend. And before Rogers Pass the road, because there's Rogers Pass the railway line, and there's also Rogers Pass the road. Before that was how you got to Golden, or by train. So you'd load your car on a train in Revelstoke or Golden and take it on the train line. But they built the highway, which is this highway that we're going to take, and it goes right through Glacier National Park. Now, for you Americans We also have a Glacier National Park in Canada as well. So ours is up here. You guys, I think Glacier is in Montana. And this park's gorgeous. You'll see when we get into the past too, we're starting to get into a little bit, why this was so problematic for building a road / railway. And the weather in here, man. Snow, just, yeah. It's called Rogers Pass after Mr. A.B. Rogers. He's kind of a nightmare of a person to work with, apparently. But, you know, you don't blaze a trail through the mountains for being a nice guy, right? He was A.B. Rogers. Yeah, he's a hard guy to work with, apparently. But he was the one that said, oh, no, you can do this. He was a surveyor, and he was like, oh, no, we can do this. And so he kind of led the charge through Rogers Pass. So we've got 4 parks of big significance, national parks, that we're going to go through. So we have basically how it goes in the chain is Mount Revelstoke is first, Mount Revelstoke National Park, which we did, Meadows in the Sky. Next one is this, Rogers Pass and Glacier National Park. The next one is Kicking Horse Pass and Yoho National Park, and then Banff. And Banff, like I said, I don't need to explain Banff to anybody. Like, it's the world-class, world-famous, like, you know, mountain town. But these parks are all same level as Banff. And frankly, like, Banff is nice, guys, but it's so crowded there because every magazine article in the world tells you to go hike there, basically. So we're going to kind of do the unknown Banff, the lesser seen, lesser traveled Banff. TransCanada Highway, as you can see, busy, main thoroughfare, BC to Alberta, basically. This is pretty much the way you got to go. You can do the Crow's Nest, but that meanders for a long time. It's a much longer route. This is kind of the short, concise, and to the point. Alrighty, guys, so we're kind of getting into Rogers Pass here. So you tell me, any engineers here, you know, project managers, planners, you want to build a railway or a road through here? And mind you, nothing's developed. There's like not like this, like just raw, untouched wilderness. And you're a surveyor or like a manager or an engineer, and they're like, can you build this? Go, right? You know, try it, have at it, right? So A.B. Rogers, well, he was like, challenge accepted, right? So he did it. So then they named it Rogers Pass after him because, you know, without him, might not have happened. Stunning scenery and just rugged, like totally rugged. And lots of snow here, guys. In the wintertime, lots and lots of snow. Bailey bridges. They really like to use Bailey bridges. They're temporary. These are temporary bridges, and BC just takes Bailey bridges and goes, okay, well that's the bridge now. The Fraser Canyon, they have them for like 3 years. Avalanche territory, Rogers Pass snow sheds. So this is the snow sheds. We're about to enter a series of snow sheds here. This is because in the wintertime, there's all this snow up in the mountains, and the steep gradient of the mountain will just cause the snow to fall off into an avalanche. Here's another snow shed. And they did the same thing for the railway. When they built the railway, had snow sheds as well. And it's basically just to protect the road and the cars from an avalanche, which is initially why they didn't want to build this highway, because they were worried about all these. And these are the kind of things they had to do to build. The Coquihalla has a snow shed. It's also got a snow shed. Same kind of terrain though, right? Another snow shed, number 3, coming up. Alrighty, guys, so Rogers Pass Memorial, Glacier National Park. That's the highway, TransCanada there. See the ice there, the glaciers? Let's see what we got here. This is the actual memorial itself. 1885, 1985. to be open July 2085. So Craiglahie, guys, that's what I was saying, right? Craiglahie, last spike, it's all connected, guys. TransCanada Highway, Quebec, right? Ontario, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Manitoba, British Columbia, Prince Edward Island, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Newfoundland. And then you've got the territories too. The territories would be Nunavut, Yukon, and Northwest Territories. And they're all part of Canada, so they get included. And then these are the avalanche cannons, guys. Packing us full of artillery, eh? Shooting it at the slope. So they shoot it at the slope there, so all the snow will fall off. Avalanche cannon, old World War II artillery. Oh, some art here. Artillery cannon. So guys, we're just finishing up the memorial here in the TransCanada Memorial, the completion of the TransCanada. Pretty special. Yeah guys, that's gonna be it for me on this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell icon to get notified so you don't miss any of the videos. And Sasquatch Prospector out, guys.